Welcome once again to Lehto's Law. Here's Steve Lehto.
There will be an ad at the end of this video. Now, I got this note from the Institute for Justice the other day, and I know many of you did too because you follow them. They do great work, and they just sent this notice out. Breaking. Institute for Justice heads back to the Supreme Court. Scott Bullock sent this to me. Dear Steve, building upon our two victories last term, we learned late this afternoon that IJ is heading back to the U.S. Supreme Court this term as well. The court granted our petition to hear the case of the Atlanta family harmed by a mistaken FBI SWAT raid on their home. Despite the trauma inflicted on this wholly innocent family, the federal government refused to offer them any compensation and claimed, of course, that they were immune from such lawsuits. The facts of the case are startling, but not uncommon, as you might expect from reading other similar Institute for Justice cases. The woman and her partner and their 7-year-old son were jolted awake by the sound of a flashbang grenade exploding in their living room. Her partner, fearing that the home was being robbed, pulled the child into a bedroom closet and reached for his legally owned weapon. Just as he was doing that, an FBI agent barged in, threw him to the ground, and began interrogating him and the woman mentioned at the beginning of the paragraph. All the while, the child was separated from his mother as officers stormed into his bedroom with their weapons drawn. So, as all this is going on, the partner tells the agents the address they're at. Suddenly it dawned on them that they had raided the wrong house. Now, they had a warrant. They did have a warrant, but it was for a warrant. It was for a house with a different number on a different street. So we've heard of them before where they show up and the numbers aren't obvious in the houses, and so they break into the one that's next door to the one they wanted. They've done that before, and you go, they shouldn't have done it, but at least I understand how it happened. Here they're on the wrong street, and the house number didn't match. Completely wrong. Everything's wrong with this picture. So luckily for the family, there's a federal statute that's supposed to help them. The Federal Tort Claims Act, which was amended to compensate victims for this very type of negligence by federal agents. And by the way, there's no question that at the very least, these agents were negligent. They had a warrant that said you can go into this house, 123 Main Street. And instead, they go into a house at 546 2nd Street. Everything's wrong. So isn't that negligence? You'd think so. But as you might guess, courts keep carving out exceptions to clear language in the statute. In fact, the federal appellate court in this case ruled against the family, claiming that because FBI agents have discretionary authority to raid the wrong house, sovereign immunity barred the claims. Got that? The FBI agents have discretionary authority to raid the wrong house. So they get a thing that says you can go into this house. It's up to their discretion if they want to do that or go. Do you want what's behind door number 1 or door number 2? No, this isn't let's make a deal. You got a warrant. See, here's the thing. You've heard the word warrant tossed around a lot in just discussions, especially on this channel and other channels on YouTube. Warrants are mentioned in the Constitution. They're mentioned in the Bill of Rights. Warrants are the kinds of things that go way, way back and are like foundational in how our legal system works. Okay? The government can't just show up and kick down your door and start taking stuff like they might have been able to do, I don't know, before the Revolutionary War. But pretty much, let's say from the Constitution, the Bill of Rights adoption in 1791. Let's go with that. Since then, warrants have actually been a part of our legal process, protecting us from the unfettered intrusions of the government. So you're sitting there, actually you're laying there, sleeping in your own house, and an explosion happens in your living room, and armed people stomp into your house very, very quickly, and they're at the wrong house. Well, they got a warrant, though. The warrant was for a different house. Okay? Think of the warrant as, like, I don't know, a ticket to see a show. You can't take the ticket to see this show over here to a different theater and see that show. It's not what they do. Same thing with a warrant. This warrant particularly describes the place to be searched or the people to be arrested. And so when you search the wrong place or arrest the wrong people, you can't go, well, I did it because of this warrant. No. Let's read the warrant. What does the warrant say? So the federal court said that the FBI have discretionary authority to raid the wrong house. Amazingly, it seems like we, the IJ, on behalf of people, now have higher expectations and standards for food delivery drivers than for federal agents executing a violent raid. If DoorDash delivers to the wrong house, you might actually get some compensation. At the very least, you don't have to pay for the meal, right? I didn't get what I paid for. I want my money back. Well, not so with the government, at least not in this case. So the actions of the FBI agents here occur too frequently in other parts of the country. In Indiana, the IJ is fighting for a mom who watched the destruction of her house by a SWAT team searching for a fugitive that was not in her home. And of course, the story out of Texas I've covered several times. The IJ is seeking to establish accountability for a SWAT raid into the client's home by a police lieutenant who did virtually nothing to ensure that he was at the right address. All of these cases are united by the same principle. Government officials should be accountable for preventable and premeditated mistakes. And not only should the possibility be there, but they should actually be held accountable. So the Supreme Court will have a chance to embrace that principle and vindicate this woman and others like her. So Scott ends by saying, thank you for your support that enables us to stand with Trina, Gabe, and Toy, that's the names of the people in the story, to renew accountability and uphold the fundamental principles of freedom and justice for all Americans. So I've talked before about many of the elements in this story. And you have to understand that if you go to court, you file an action in, let's say, the local federal district court, trial court level, you have a case there. And it's a very, very important issue. And you lose. Okay, you then take that appeal to the Court of Appeals. And that's a routine thing. People often do that. If you go to the Court of Appeals and you lose, you then have the right to ask the Supreme Court to hear your case. They don't have to hear your case. And every year the numbers fluctuate, but it's roughly, I think, 2 to 3% of the cases that are offered to them, they accept for hearing. The other 97, 98%, no, they don't do that. So believe it or not, you've got to get through the first hurdles. Now, it'd be nice to win. If you won at the trial court level, that's great. The problem is the other side can appeal it. And you better darn well believe the government's going to appeal if they lose a case like this. So the one appeal happens. So you ask the Supreme Court to hear your case. It is a very, very small number of cases that they accept. So when they accept one, it's huge. Now, here's the thing. Doesn't mean you're going to win. Supreme Court rules this way, they rule that way. They might take a case like this up because they agree with the lower court. Or they might simply take the case up because they haven't handled a case like this in a while and they want to just address it. But the one thing I've often pointed out is that the legal system is very, very expensive. Now, I'm an attorney, but the field I practice in, lemon law, says that if you have a case and I handle it for you and I get the manufacturer to buy your car back, the manufacturer pays your attorney fees on your behalf to me. I get paid. So it doesn't cost my clients anything. When you're fighting for your constitutional rights, unfortunately, you got to pay out of your own pocket. So this happens to you. You contact some attorneys, go, I'd like to sue the FBI. The knee-jerk response of most attorneys is, you're going to lose. We know you're going to lose. But the IJ goes, hey, you know something? We're willing to take this one up and fight it because we want to make some good case law, right? So they handle it at the trial court level, and it gets appealed, And they asked the Supreme Court to hear it. And the Supreme Court grants the request. That is huge, okay? I've been practicing for 34 years. I've never had a case before the U.S. Supreme Court. I've worked with stuff in the federal courts and the courts of appeal, also in the state courts and the state courts of appeal. And I've also filed stuff with the Michigan Supreme Court, but I've never actually argued a case there, okay? Simply getting there is extremely difficult and can be extremely expensive. That's why it's important that somebody like the IJ does this kind of work. But here's the other part. You have to understand this. That when the IJ chooses cases, which cases they're going to handle, they're looking at the cases that will have the biggest impact on other people. And that's one of the reasons that they focus so narrowly on these constitutional law issues. Because constitutional law issues can affect all of us, right? And so I've had people who ask me, and they say, Steve, do they handle like child custody cases or divorce cases or things like and no, because a case like that doesn't usually involve constitutional law issues directly. And number two, if they were to help you with your case, is that going to help all these other people? Probably not. But when they get a case before the U.S. Supreme Court, if they can get the U.S. Supreme Court to rule their way, it's going to help everybody. So just imagine this. If the Supreme Court ruled on this case the right way, right off the bat, it could help the people in Indiana, mentioned earlier, and it could help the woman in Texas, mentioned earlier. Think about that. So you've got the people in Georgia and Texas and Indiana all affected by this one concept. So that's what's so important about the work they're doing, is that they're looking at this stuff going, it's constitutional law, it affects everybody, and right now, this immunity question has been so bothersome, and people are now becoming more and more aware of it. And so it's important that we talk about this, make sure people hear about this, and they're doing wonderful work. So the Institute for Justice just got another case accepted for hearing before the U.S. Supreme Court. So what's going to happen now is the Supreme Court will issue a briefing schedule, and they'll say, okay, the appellant has got to file a brief before us, and they got this time to do it. Interested parties can file amicus briefs with permission of the court. Those can get filed here. And then the response brief from the appellee. And then if the appellant wants to file it. So there's going to be a bunch of stuff that can be filed down the road. And then somewhere further down the road, they're going to be called up for oral arguments. They'll make their arguments before the bench of the U.S. Supreme Court. And then after that, the Supreme Court will issue its ruling and its opinion, and we'll go from there. So there's a long ways to go still. But they've gotten to the show, as we like to say. And it's big, big news. So congratulations to the IJ. It's a worthy cause. I hope that this can end well and resolve some issues that we've been getting sick and tired about hearing of. So IJ heads back to the Supreme Court. Got that from Scott Bullock. Questions or comments, put them below. Let's talk to you later. Bye-bye. I told you at the top there'd be an ad at the end. Here we are. I'm here to talk to you about Home Title Lock. Home Title Lock is a service that helps you protect your property against scammers who might try to steal it from you. People can actually do that these days. A lot of clerks that accept things for filing don't verify them. They just accept them for filing. So somebody can dummy up some paperwork that says that they bought your house from you, go file it with the clerk, and next thing you know, they're listed as the owner of your house. Then that person can, take a mortgage out against your house or try to sell your house or do all kinds of things. And this is the kind of thing that if it isn't discovered quickly, becomes a bigger problem the longer it goes undiscovered by you. So Home Title Lock is a service that will help protect you against these kinds of things. And so I've talked about this before on my channel, just the kinds of things people do when they're out there running these kinds of scams. And one angle that I've not talked about recently is how often they target the elderly or people who have other kinds of issues that make it difficult for them. So here's an example out of Florida from yahoo.com. Daniel Antos wrote this. A real estate agent in Florida has been arrested, is facing multiple charges, according to the TV station there, following what authorities described as an elaborate scam in which he took this couple's life savings and their properties. He's a 45-year-old real estate agent. He listed himself as the power of attorney and healthcare surrogate of the couple using fraudulent documents. And so by the time this thing ended, he pretty much had everything in his name. It appears he dummied up a will, but he also dummied up paperwork to indicate that the property that they owned was now his. And he could do that by forging these documents, and also because he knew who they were, he'd been working with them, and he took advantage of that. And so the sheriff on this one said he'd never seen anything like it, and he actually called the guy evil. He was evil. But the real root here is that it is so easy for someone to do this, because all they've got to do is dummy up the papers, file them with the clerk, and next thing you know, on paper, they own your house. So Home Title Lock offers what they call the triple lock protection, okay? Lock 1 is a monitor. They provide 24/7 monitoring to detect any tampering with your title or your mortgage. Lock 2 are urgent alerts. The proprietary system scans multiple data sources, triggering timely alerts of any changes to your title. And remember, time is of the essence. 3, restoration. If you're a victim of this, their U.S.-based restoration team works with lawyers and experts to help restore your title. So you go to HometitleLock.com/Lehto's Law and use promo code Lehto's Law to get a 30-day free trial of triple lock protection and a free title history report. And I've mentioned before, and this is the funniest thing of all time, I signed up for Home Title Lock when I first heard of these people. Signed up for it, and I thought, okay, I'm going to check this thing out, and I'm going to take a good look at that free title history report. I want to see what's on there, because I thought I know the story, but I'll take a look at it and see what they turn up. And I discovered that there was a mistake in the filings with respect to my property. And here's the scary part. I was at the closing. I had a closing agent, and I had an attorney with me. Yes, smart attorneys hire attorneys. And I reviewed all of the documents. I reviewed them all. They were reviewed by everybody else, signed a bunch of stuff, and I was told it's all going to get filed. You're all set. It's all going to get filed. Later on, I got copies indicating that it was all filed. I'm all set. And that's where most people leave it. Most people think, well, I filed it. I'm done. What could possibly go wrong? Well, you know a lot of this stuff is online, right? To get it online, someone's got to type some information in. And someone typing in some information can fat finger a couple keys. And next thing you know, there's a mistake on your title history that you wouldn't know about because it's not in your paperwork. Now, I'll admit, this right here was easy enough to fix. I simply had to point it out and get it fixed. But without that free title report, I would never have known. And what would have happened, most likely, is somewhere down the road, when my descendants go to sell off my property, they're going to go, hey, check that out. There's that weird mistake there. We got to get that fixed. And so when you find stuff and it's not urgent, that is, there's no crushing need for me to get this fixed right now because I'm not trying to sell anything right now, I got time to take care of it. I can get it taken care of. And that's the thing. It's easier to take care of these things if you find them right away than if you wait. And the same is true if somebody filed a bad deed on your property. If you found out today, okay, get to work on it. You find out 3 months from now, chances are the reason you found out is that somebody came by and nailed something to your front door. And by the way, when they nail things to your front door, it's never good. Never. Go back as far as you want in history. Things nailed to front doors usually cause further problems. Just trust me on that. So Home Title Lock is the service I'm talking about here, and you can get something free here. Go to HometitleLock.com, Lehto's Law, and use the promo code Lehto's Law, LEHTOSLAW, to get a 30-day free trial of triple lock protection and a free title history report. Questions or comments? Put them below. Let's talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching Lehto's Law. It is much better to walk alone in the right direction than to follow the herd hiking in the wrong direction.